Welcome to the Twinkl Talks EYFS podcast. Working in the early years is busy, funny, messy, and exhausting. Join me, Shana, some of the Twinkl EYFS team, special guest speakers, and other early years practitioners as we talk honestly about our experiences. Whether you're listening for CPD, on your commute, or to help you relax, Twinkl EYFS will share everything you need to know about all things early years.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Twinkl Talks EYFS with the Private Early Years team. My name's Katie.
And I'm Charlotte.
And I'm Georgia.
And in this episode, we're going to be answering questions from you, practitioners in nurseries and preschools, and the problems you've been having recently. So we'll get stuck straight in. And the first one today, which is a bit of a controversial one, I thought, is we have a staff member in my setting who refuses to change nappies. What do you guys think about this?
I don't know how you can get a job in an early years setting, especially a nursery, and not think that you can get away with changing nappies.
So crazy, right?
Like, it's bizarre to me that you'd go for a job with, especially when you know you're going to be working with babies and toddlers who are mostly in nappies, that you won't be expected to do them, or you can say you don't want to. I don't know. It just baffles me.
Yeah, me too.
It kind of sounds like this person's getting away with it. Do you know what I mean? As if they've just been like, as if they aren't changing nappies and everyone else is just like, okay.
They've refused, and that's just like, okay, no problem. I think it's hard to answer without a bit more context. Like, I thought maybe there would be, like, in the past, I've had staff with like physical challenges, so they've done nappies on a nappy mat on the floor, or we've made adjustments to make it work. But it seems like this person just doesn't want to and has said no thanks, which, like you said, is crazy. Like, you'd think it would be probably in their like contract or something, like it's just part and parcel with the job. So it is a bit of a crazy one.
Yeah, you're right. Because for some people, there are obviously things like health conditions or being pregnant, for example, where you can't be lifting a child up high on a changing mat. But then for the most part, those people, there's something in place to support them, like a risk assessment to make that as safe for them as possible. And it's different if someone can't do it to someone refusing to do it. Like, you're understanding about that, aren't you? And you would expect your setting to put things into place. Like, if someone can't change nappies, probably not best placed in a nappy room. Definitely don't put them in a nappy room, but definitely don't put them in a baby room. They'd be better suited to preschool where there are a lot less nappy-based children. But to just refuse, I genuinely don't know what I would have done if someone was like, "No, I'm not doing the nappies." I'd have been like, "But it is part of the job."
We used to get people refuse to change just children in general. Like, if they'd had like a accident and they needed changing, like in preschool,
Mm.
I'd have people be like, "Oh, sorry, don't want to do that."
Okay, I'm not in the mood to do this today, so can you? Thanks.
And I was like, "Well, I don't really want to scrape poo out of some underpants either, but it's part and parcel of the job, so you just have to,
Unfortunately, we are kind of paid to do that sometimes, so just do it.
I think if you work in early years, you can't be as scared of bodily fluids or anything like that."
It is just an odd one, but I think this is where if you're in the setting and someone's refusing to change nappies, it's a responsibility for your room leader to deal with or the managers, because it is most likely at most places that would be them not fulfilling their job role, and there's like action that should be taken there to sort that out. But as like a general practitioner, it's not necessarily your responsibility to sort out, I think. I don't know if you guys agree with that.
Yeah, I'd say room leader and higher management. It's, because it's quite a difficult conversation to have
Mm.
if it's going to be quite hostile, or, think you don't know how it's going to go. So for an early years practitioner, I don't think it's part of unless you felt very confident and felt like you wanted to do that, then go for it. But
A heavy confrontation one day.
yeah, if you were like really good at that sort of thing and your room leader was like, "Yeah, you do it instead," then that's fine. But yeah, I'd say like more management role for that.
And another question we have received is, I've worked at my current setting for years and I have an interview coming up. What should I expect?
Oh, interesting. So it sounds like they don't have a lot of experience interviewing and they're probably going to a newer setting. It does depend on where you're interviewing. So, for example, if you were interviewing at a school, it is different to interviewing at a day nursery or a preschool. So we'll go from the day nursery and preschool. perspective. But sometimes interviews have just been purely like sit down, talk to each other, but then sometimes they've had a more practical element. What did you guys have to do for your most recent nursery roles?
I went for a job that was a nursery in a school, and I had to do a 20-minute story time session with, I think they were about 2 years old, these children, like a little group of them. I just got put in like a separate room and had to do story time however I wanted to. So I had to pick the book, I had to like, design how it would, plan out. And then I had an interview, which was about 45 minutes, I think, where it was just questions about the EYFS, observations, planning, assessment, safeguarding, all the sort of usual topics that come up. I can't remember all of them, but and then I had to go and I had to watch a little clip of these children playing, and I had to write an observation about it.
I've never done anything like that in an interview before.
It was the children in the setting, and they must have got permission off the parents to just do like a little recording of them playing, and I had to then write it up as I would write it up as an observation. And then the people that were interviewing me then looked at that and was like, is she capable of being able to see what the children are doing, plan the next steps and all that sort of stuff. So it was quite intense. I was there for a while.
Yeah. But actually, the observation task, that's quite clever because obviously, if you're interviewing someone that's saying they've got 5, 6 years experience in early years, that should be no problem because it's something they'll be doing most days at nursery now. So actually, that's really interesting. It really helps you judge someone's understanding of whatever curriculum they've just been working with, whether that's Develop Matters, Birth to Five Matters, their own. But like, it really helps you understand what they're looking for. Do they understand what a child's next steps would be? What are the skills that we're looking at based on that age range? That's such a good one.
Yeah, super interesting. I think I'm similar to this person that's asked the question. I was in my previous role for 13 years, so I haven't had an interview for a very long time, but I was part of the management team, so I was part of the interviewing process. And lots of our interviews included practical elements, like you said, Katie. They would have a few minutes in the room with the children. So just to be prepared to interact with the children, dress appropriately so you can get down on the floor and engage. And another thing that you said that was interesting, Katie, is it depends where it's for. Like, I think maybe do your research before, like, is it a forest school, like a Montessori setting? Like, do your research to know what you're going into. But yeah, I haven't been in that situation for a long time, but yeah.
Like I said, for the last interview I had to do, it was just because it was a manager role. I don't remember having to spend any time with the children, but I did do a tour and they like walked me through and spoke me through some things. And I did feel like they were judging me based on like my responses. So they'd be like, what are your thoughts about this display? And I'd be like, yeah, it's great. Or, oh, I'd change this about it. Trying to be, middle ground. No, this is the worst thing I've ever seen. But then before that, my jobs have always involved a practical element. Usually a story time. It's always a story time, or they just throw you in a room for a bit and then you just see how you get on, and then you know that the other staff are reporting back on you. I love the idea of that observation task though. And I think that is quite a school-based thing to do. I do think in school settings, the interview process is a bit longer. So it's more like a day, especially if you're going for a teacher-based role and you might be expected to do more. But I do think in a school that makes sense that it's a slightly longer and more, I guess, intense process. But then again, if you were interviewing at a childminder, it could be completely different because it's just them and you. It's unlikely that there's going to be a load of other childminding assistants. There's usually only one or two. So it would be a completely different environment again. But there's always preparing for the actual interview. And if you've done the physical side of it first, be prepared to reflect on what happened in the physical side of it in the talking side of the interview afterwards, I think is really important to prepare for.
So we've also seen people ask about thoughts on celebrating Halloween in earlier settings and whether or not you should. So did you guys celebrate it in your...
This question comes up every year, doesn't it? And I actually do think that with every passing year, I'm noticing more and more people who are saying that they don't celebrate Halloween in their settings. And it's always for a variety of reasons, whether it's they don't feel it's appropriate or it's too scary for children, or perhaps because they've got like a particular type of religion in their setting. But I do think that is something that is growing quite a lot. But everywhere I've ever worked, we have absolutely celebrated Halloween, and we have rinsed it for as many weeks as possible before. So by the time Halloween comes around, you're so bored of it.
Yeah, we used to celebrate it in preschool, and I can't remember ever having any children that weren't allowed to be involved. Like, it was always quite a topic where all the children used to do the activities and join in, and we used to do a lot of like orange and black, so it wasn't so much Halloween sometimes. It was more, or it was like, let's design a skeleton and talk about like the human body and like things like that. So it's a little bit more like you could get away with it not being as much Halloween.
You can make Halloween link to any area of learning if you try hard enough.
Yeah. So it was mostly Halloween things. Like, we get a pumpkin and we do pumpkin carving, and I used to turn the lights off and put a candle in and like tell spooky stories and stuff like that. So
Do you know, I don't feel like I feel like you said this before, because I have a vivid vision of you telling like grown-up horror stories to 4-year-olds and then panicking. I know you wouldn't have done that, and it was probably just like Funny Bones or something like that. But that is what I envision.
yeah, no, I wouldn't have done it if the children hadn't enjoyed it. But I had quite tough preschoolers. Like, they were like into like the scary stuff, so it was quite nice
A
to be able to do
successful
that.
Halloween story time should always end with a child in tears, and I stand by that.
But I did leave the pumpkin on the shelf. I'm sure I've told you this before, and I forgot about it, and it rotted, and I was like, "What's that smell coming from the corner of my room?" And then realised it was all nasty at the back of the shelf.
What about your experiences, Georgia?
Yeah, same to be honest. I worked in a really like culturally diverse setting, and we never had any sort of issues with it. We marked it every year, but I think the key is like marking it as you sort of would with other sort of cultural celebrations, like you'd
Hmm.
mark Eid and Diwali and things, rather than going too deep into it, sort of like you said, do crafts and all sorts of the fun stuff. Because I think it's a great opportunity to like make memories, and there's like messy, slimy play and things like that. So I've always, it's something that I've always sort of celebrated and marked and never had a problem with in my settings.
And every year it becomes more and more commercialized, doesn't it? Do you know how, for example, Valentine's Day chocolate this year was out on Boxing Day by me. So I felt like I've been looking into Valentine's Day for about 2 months by the time it arrived. So it's the same with Halloween. It's getting pushed out earlier and earlier. So children are seeing it around more and more. So they do have questions about it, and it is something they're being exposed to. So it can be something that is embraced in a setting. You just have to be age appropriate with it. So I wouldn't necessarily set up a activity tray and then cover, like, do a washing babies activity but Halloweeny. To me, that would be like maybe wrapping it up in bandages. It wouldn't be covering it in fake blood, and then together we wash the fake blood off the baby. There's a very different vibe to that kind of activity, isn't there?
Yeah,
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 I
definitely.
get, you need to, not as gory as like some people may take it, but yeah, we had to stop the dressing up though, because
Did
children were,
you?
yeah, because some children were scared of the masks. So like the little babies and the toddlers, like if they saw the older ones, like, because some of the older ones would like peep around the door with the mask on and stuff and like jump out at them. So we did have to say, unfortunately, the children can't dress up for Halloween, but we'll still do our Halloween activities. But yeah, some of the little ones didn't like the like masks and things that the older children were wearing.
That's so interesting. Did you always dress up, Georgia?
Yeah, yeah. I think we made, like I said, adaptations. If there was like a particularly gruesome or spooky mask that other children weren't responding well to, we'd like pop it back in the child's bag or whatever. But the babies would come in dressed as little pumpkins and all things like that. Yeah, we continued that. Yeah, I know, it's adorable.
Yeah, I don't remember ever having to adapt a costume, but they would come in every year. But maybe there's something, we put something out to parents before, being like, let's use our brains, people. There are going to be 6 weeks and 9-month olds in the setting. Let's not do a scary mask that is streaming with blood. Let's be realistic about what's going to be scary or not. What would you suggest for settings that aren't celebrating Halloween, but they still want to get into the swing of it? Because, like I said, it's going to be everywhere. So, like Halloween alternatives, I guess. Do you have anything that you could suggest for that?
I mean, I think like I touched on earlier, like you could do like an orange and black theme, or you could do like there's like bats and things like that, isn't there? Bats. I mean, are pumpkins Halloweeny? Like, can you do that as some sort of like is it a vegetable or a fruit? I always get it mixed up.
I don't know if it's a vegetable or a fruit.
It's got seeds, hasn't it? So is it a fruit?
I have no idea, but I would look at pumpkins as like a
Yeah,
topic.
because you could do it for like Harvest Festival as well, or something like that. Because
Children will be absolutely going pumpkin picking.
yeah, and you could do skeletons and things like that because you can, like I said, you can link it to like bones and the human body and all about me kind of vibes if you want to go for that. But
Really drag that out. If you started that in September, really just try and drag out an all about me topic. Yeah, I agree. It's just taking away the scary element, and you do all the same things, wouldn't you? You just wouldn't necessarily call it Halloween. You could call it like I think orange and black is a really clever way to not have it as Halloween because we all know what it is, don't we? But it's just not Halloween. But the same way you can do like purple and green, the same kind of vibe. I feel like Halloween's got such a specific colour set. So I think there are lots of different ways to do it. Or you can just really go in big on autumn. Again, you've probably been looking at autumn for a few weeks by that point, but all of those things fit nicely into autumn, looking at darkness and how it's going to be getting crazy to think about. But at the end of October, it's going to be so dark most of the day. You can be looking at the fruits and the pumpkins that are growing, the different animals that come around, like the bats. I was about to say the witches, but I don't know if they're real or not.
you could do Room on the Broom because children love that story, and that's not it is Halloweeny, but you could make it not. You could more look at like
It's like a Halloween association, isn't it? But it's
yeah.
not necessarily a Halloween. It's just because we know it's like a witch and a cat on the broom. And that's it for another episode of Twinkl Talks EYFS with the Private Early Years team. As always, you can send us your own questions to answer or just to generally join our early years community online in our many, many social media places, including Pinterest, YouTube, Facebook groups, X, TikTok. If it exists, we're probably on it. But in the meantime, we'll speak to you again in a couple of weeks. Bye.
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 So that's it for today's episode. I hope you really enjoyed it. If you would like to join in or would like to know more, then come and find us on our social media sites. We have a Facebook page, Facebook groups, an Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Pinterest, and YouTube. All the links of where to find us will be in our podcast description. Come and join the conversation. And whatever you're doing today, I hope you have a great day.